The Python standard library includes a unit test module that's very powerful and very flexible and is also very easy to use. Unit tests are valuable for a few reasons. Unit tests are automated tests that you can run on your code, and you can write these tests once and save them and run them over and over. So if you have a set of code that's got a lifetime to it, that over the course of its lifetime it gets updated, it gets changed, having these unit tests already written and being able to run these unit tests on your code is going to have some real value for you. So let's look at how this is done in Python. I've got the saytime module here, which has been used for a number of different purposes in this course. And you'll notice at the end of it, it's got a little test function. And when I wrote this just seemed like the easiest way to do it. And it's also, I like to be able to look at the results and say, yeah, that looks right, that looks right, that looks right. If this were any more complicated, or if it was going to have much of a development life cycle to it, I would use unit tests instead. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. This is a unit test script that I wrote for saytime, and I basically took those textual tests and I made them into unit tests. And this was very, very easy to do. All I do is I import saytime and I import the unit test. So this is the module that I'm working on, and this is the unit test framework from the Python standard library. And then I create this class. And then at the end of the module here, if name equals main, instead of just calling my own main, I call a special main that's in the unit test package. And in the unit test package, this special main will actually open up this file and parse it and find the classes that import unit test, and it'll go ahead and run the tests in that class. And so here's the class. I can name it whatever I want, and it has a special method called setup. And this special method setup, I can do any initializations I want to. And so here I created this list of numbers. I could have just as easily put that in the test for the numbers, but I wanted to demonstrate the setup here. And so I take a range of 11 numbers from 0 to 10, and I make a list out of them, and I assign them to this variable here. And so that gets used in test numbers. So here's the first method. These methods will get run as the tests. So the first method here is test numbers. And I've got some words that I'm going to compare those numbers again. And these are the words that'll be the results of my say words, num words. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are the results that I'm expecting. And so I enumerate through the self nums. I get both an index and the number itself. And then I run this assert equal method, which is from the unit test package. And it's going to compare two values. And if these two values are equal, then fine, it'll leave it alone. And if they're not, then it'll throw an assertion error. And so here the two values are the result from my saytime num words and the word from this tuple here. If they equal, then fine. And if they're not equal, then it'll throw an assertion error. And so the same thing here, test time. I have time tuples. And so this is a tuple with a bunch of tuples in it, and these are the times that I'm testing against, and these are hours and minutes. And then here's the list of the results that I want. Midnight, 1 past midnight, 11 o'clock, etc. And if they compare equal, it's the same thing. I enumerate through the time tuples, I run them through the module that I'm testing, and I compare them to this tuple up here of these words. If they're equal, fine. If they're not equal, it throws an assertion error. So this is how this works. And obviously you can write your own tests. There's a number of different assertion tests. You can find those in the documentation for the unit test module. I strongly recommend that you read the documentation for the unit test package. It's got a lot of options. It has a lot of methods that you can use for your testing. There's a lot of different assertions that you can test for. And it even has some ways to do some more complicated tests. This kind of test that I've written here is the simplest case, and for most purposes, this is actually just fine, and it does the job, and it does the job well. So let's go ahead and run it. When we run this, you'll notice that we get our little test, and we've been just selecting Python run for all of these. There's a special one here in the PyDev module for Eclipse. It's called Python unit test, and we're going to run that one. Say OK, and here it ran our unit test. We'll maximize this so we can see what it does. First of all, it finds files, and it finds the test say time, And that's our unit test module that we just wrote. And it imports the test module, so it's importing the say words. And here it runs the two tests, test numbers and test time. It ran the two tests, it didn't throw any assertion errors, and there's the result that we're expecting. If it had not gotten the result that it wanted, let's just go ahead and misspell one of these words here. I'll just throw an extra O in there. We'll save that and we'll run it. And now we got one failure. You see, it got an assertion error that O did not equal to O. So it gives us enough information here that we can actually go through the code and we can say, oh, well, I've got a typo in my assertion test, or there's an actual problem in my module that I need to go and fix. So the beauty of this is that as your code goes through its development life cycle, you make one release, you make another release, you make another release, you add features, you take features away, you change features. Your unit tests are already written. And so you can accumulate more, you can change them, and this is going to help you to keep the quality of your code high throughout its development life cycle. So unit tests are very useful. The unit test package that comes in the standard Python library is very complete and very well written and very reliable. If you're going to be releasing your code using PyPy, you must submit unit tests with it. And of course, the unit tests are going to be of value to you in any code that has a lengthy product life cycle.